Start with my bill, which is Senate Bill 1482, and Senator Trent is going to take over the committee.
Please proceed when ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 1482 today. So in 2017, the Missouri Family Trust Company Act was created. I was in the House at that time, and I was the sponsor of that bill. At that point in time, the Division of Finance had an acting director, and they were not ready to oversee that program, even though that's probably where it should have been. So because of that, we house the program in the Missouri Secretary of State's office. Currently, the Division of Finance is ready, willing, and able to oversee this, the Family Trust Act, and it really is a better fit for them to be overseeing it rather than the Secretary of State. So this bill simply moves the Missouri Family Trust Company Act from the Secretary of State's office to the Missouri Division of Finance. I think it's important to note that the Secretary of State and his staff, also the division and staff, and the Missouri bankers have all worked in conjunction with this bill, and I believe they are all in favor of it. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I do have a witness behind me that is going to fill in some more details about the Missouri Family Trust Act.
Thank you for that presentation. Seeing no questions from the committee, first witness in support, please come forward and may begin when ready on favorable testimony for Senate Bill 1482.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Paul Vogel. I'm here to testify in favor of the bill. Senator Crawford said it very well. We're really just taking what is already Missouri law and moving it to a different regulatory body within Missouri's government. And one would ask, why do we want to do that? The reason we want to do that, most states control all their own finance and banking laws. And if you have a financial institution that's not under those banking laws governed by the state, we have to be governed by the Securities and Exchange Commission. And as the rules in government, federal government, have particularly changed, the original intent of the bill to allow families to remain control of their assets long-term through owning their own trust company and retaining those assets in Missouri instead of going to the 18 other states that have this bill, it's getting diminished. As the regulations go down and get narrower and narrower in the Securities and Exchange Commission, it's harder and harder to keep those assets in Missouri, much less to attract new ones. So moving it from the Secretary of State's division into the Division of Finance will put it under the banking exception to the SEC, which means it'll be governed solely by Missouri, nothing to do with federal regulations anymore, which we think, advisors in my profession, think that's going to put Missouri in the top tier of private trust, family trust company acts, which should not only allow us to keep our family's wealth in the state, but attract new. It's my goal to meet with all my constituents on the speaking circuit that talk prolifically on private family trust companies and get Missouri off the list of, well, it's a state that has one, and on the list with South Dakota and Tennessee as a state you should consider going to. So given the simplicity of really just moving the bill from here to here, you might ask, why in the world is the bill so thick if that's all we're doing? Well, by my count, the reason the bill's so thick, we had to replace the word secretary with director no less than 103 times. And because of that, there was no way to do it other than redrafting the entire bill and just blocking out secretary and putting in director. So I apologize for the thickness, but it was the only way to accomplish the goal. Any questions I can answer?
Questions for this witness from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you for being here
for that, Chairman.
And for that very good explanation. Further witnesses in support? And if witnesses would make sure they fill out a witness card and make sure that's turned in before the end of the hearing. Proceed when ready.
You bet. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. David Kent, registered lobbyist with the Missouri Bankers Association. We just want to go on record in support. Appreciate the opportunity to work on the language.
Thank you for that testimony. Questions from this witness? Seeing none. Further witnesses to testify in support of Senate Bill 1482. Seeing none. Seeing one. Please come on down. Oh, are you witness in support?
Yes.
Well, please proceed, and then we've got another one queued up here.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dinoff, State Public Advocate. And I want to go in favor of SB 1482, which is simply moving from the Secretary of State to the Missouri Department of Finance. It's a much better fit to regulate finance and assets. And so I would be in support of the bill.
Thank you for that testimony. Questions for this witness from the committee? Seeing none. Further witnesses in support, please come forward and proceed when ready.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you so much. Scott Clark, Deputy Chief of Staff, Secretary of State, Jay Ashcroft's office. We're here in support. We agree it's probably a good fit. In the Division of Finance, we have reviewed the language, name protections in there, the important elements that we think are extremely beneficial for continuity of government and to move this. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that testimony. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you again for being here. Further witnesses in support, Senate Bill 1482. Seeing none. Any witnesses here to testify in opposition? Senate Bill 1482. Seeing none. Any witnesses here to testify for informational purposes only? Seeing none. Senator, do you have any closing remarks?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for that presentation. That will conclude the public hearing on Senate Bill 1482, and we'll now turn the committee back over to the chair.
We're going to take a pause to establish a quorum. Barb, would you please call the roll?
Senators Crawford,
Here.
Trent, Brown, Hoskins, Huff, Mosley, Roberts.
We do have a quorum. Okay, we are going to do the next two bills together. That would be Senate Bill 843, Senator Bernskoetter, and Senate Bill 105, Senator Fitzwater. So if both of you want to come up, I believe Senator Fitzwater is going to take the lead on this, and then Senator Bernskoetter will follow behind. So if you gentlemen want to proceed when you're ready, and we're just going to take testimony. They're the same bill, so we're taking testimony on both at once for, against, and then informational purposes only. So either wherever you want to sit, Senator.
Could you tell him not to? That'd be great. Stay over there. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Travis Fitzwater, 10th Senate District, here to propose my version of this, Senate Bill 1105. I don't know, Senator, if you want to introduce yourself.
Senator Bernskoetter, representing the 6th District with Senate Bill 843.
So these are bills pertaining to pharmacy benefit managers, and I've spent a professional career studying these entities and their complexity and how they impact the healthcare environment. And so this is really the first year I've ever filed a bill on this in my 10 years in the legislature, because I think it's about time to kind of shine some light on what pharmacy benefit managers do in the state of Missouri and how it impacts patients. First of all, this bill will ensure that patients can go to the pharmacy of their choice. I think that's important. So they're not directed to a pharmacy benefit manager or mail order facility for the drugs that they need. Secondly, there's a lot of independent pharmacies, local businesses that are going out of business because the anti-competitive practices of pharmacy benefit managers in our state and in our country. And that's in large part because they give little independent pharmacies take it or leave it contracts that force them to sell medications for less than it costs to buy them for the pharmacy. Here locally, my family, not only my family, but my parents and hundreds of others lost our family pharmacy just recently, had 3 facilities here in mid-Missouri, a great community business that they had to sell off because it just didn't make sense anymore to have their 3 pharmacies. Hate that for us because it's very inconvenient for a variety of reasons. We want to see our pharmacists. We want to go and see our healthcare providers. And so these anti-competitive practices, what this bill will try to accomplish is, 1, make sure that patients can go to the pharmacy that they choose. 2, that these PBMs are transparent and that they're regulated by the Department of Insurance in the state of Missouri. And 3, that they are providing a fiduciary responsibility to the employers, so the plan sponsors. So those are really kind of the big components of the bill. I think the important parts of the bill. A lot of work to do here. Obviously, this is very complex. PBMs are middlemen. They're basically they were created originally to transact a very complex process. So a pharmacy would dispense a medication. PBMs were there to be the intermediary between a pharmacy and an employee under a plan. So they would charge the employer for the cost of a drug, and they would reimburse a pharmacy for dispensing the drug and then take a transaction fee. Well, that's no longer how it works anymore. There's still that in the infrastructure, but what happens now is they also negotiate rebates. They add fees upon fees upon fees into the rebates, and they come in afterwards and they recoup costs from pharmacies. Pharmacies don't even really know what they're getting charged or what they're being paid for medications until they get notification when the claim is being adjudicated. So there's a lot here. Love to discuss it further. Again, have had years studying this, and I think this is an important discussion to have around how do we take care of patients in the state of Missouri.
Senator Bernskoetter, anything you would like to add?
So, like Senator Fitzwater said, he's been in this industry for a long time. The couple of points he pointed out was making sure patients can go to the pharmacy of their choice and the fiduciary responsibility of PBMs, but also it defines the definition of a rebate. He mentioned rebates. It actually defines a rebate. And then it also requires that PBMs can't redefine generic and brand name drugs. So those are a couple of the other points in the bill.
Thank you for that. We have only till 1 o'clock. How many? I need to get a show of hands. How many are here to testify in favor of the bills? How many in opposition? Okay. All right. We're decent shape. Just keep in mind we have at least 10 or 12 people to testify, so we want to hear from everybody, but please keep your comments concise. No need to really reiterate the same thing twice. So with that, we'll take the first witness in favor of. Just as a reminder, please fill out the witness form if you have not already and leave it on the table, and be sure and let us know who you are. Thank you.
Chair, members of the committee, Henry Tolomock with the Missouri Pharmacy Association to go on record as in support of Senator Bernskoetter and Senator Fitzwater's bills. I don't think I can put it better than the senators. Senator Fitzwater mentioned that pharmacies are shuttering, both in urban and rural areas. What you're seeing is that there's a decrease in pharmacies. You're going to hear today, and I want to be clear and concise on this, that there may be opponents of the bill who say that there's been an increase in pharmacies recently. The Missouri Board of Pharmacy statistics have shown that that's not actually the case. There are less pharmacies year to year, and that's mainly due to various practices. This bill isn't trying to regulate the field completely. We all love the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Most of us, because we live in Missouri. There are some of us who love the Browns, specifically referencing to Senator Fitzwater, and some of us love the Falcons, right? So, and that's me from Georgia. But each football team, they're playing on a level playing field, right? There's always a level playing field, and everybody on the field, all the players have to abide by various rules. Kansas City Chiefs right now won the Super Bowl, but that being said, the competition committee is currently looking at lessening some of the plays and penalties that are happening to players. That's what this bill is trying to do, right? We're trying to level the playing field for all of those in this field. The bill, you'll see there are provisions relating to what many may deem any willing provider status. It's not necessarily any willing provider. What the language actually states is you cannot contractually obligate a patient to utilize mail order pharmacy. Actually, Madam Chair, the Missouri Consolidated Healthcare Plan regarding specialty medication, so drugs such as Humira or medications that may require are a little bit more expensive, right, or a lot more expensive. A patient may have to receive that medication via mail order. They can't go to a pharmacy of their choosing contractually because they're obligated. The state uses a PBM. Actually, the Missouri Medicaid program, I believe 15 years ago, released their contracts with PBMs. Why? It's the same reason various other states are doing it. Ohio, Arkansas, Arizona, they're all saying that they're paying more for medications than other states without PBMs. And Madam Chair, I will be short and sweet. The bill's just opening up transparency, and I'll answer any questions.
Thank you. And I just realized that I did not ask for questions of the bill sponsor, so we'll do that at the end. So do we have any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in favor.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Erica Crane, and I'm a pharmacist in Columbia. And I'm here to tell you how you're going to hear today from PBMs how they save patients money. They keep costs down, and I'm a co-founder of a cash-only, no-insurance pharmacy in Columbia. And then I'm sure you've heard of Mark Cuban. He's opened a lot of the cost-plus drugs. There's now pharmacies opening all across the country because of PBMs and their practices. It saves patient money. I have so many examples I can give you of a patient that came to me and said their copay was $300, and then I could dispense it for $7. So I know the way pricing is set up, how PBMs reimburse, and how they are charging patients is not saving anybody money. Many of you have probably gone to the pharmacy and noticed, hey, it has a prior authorization, or I can't fill this, or my insurance doesn't want to cover it. There is a lot of regulations that insurance put on prescriptions that if they didn't exist, honestly, you could just walk into a pharmacy with your prescription, get your medication, pay your copay, and then be on your way. So obviously PBMs were set up for a good reason, for making claims between the pharmacy and the insurance, but now they have had practices that are putting people out of business, or now forming other pharmacies to help patients keep medication and not have to choose that over groceries. So I'm just here to say it is not saving patients money.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next up in favor.
Good afternoon. My name is Jerry Callahan. I'm owner of several medicine shop pharmacies in and around the St. Louis metropolitan area. I'm here to speak, obviously, in support of the bill. Let's look at the facts. The U.S. has the highest prices for prescription medications. At a recent meeting, a consultant for the pharmaceutical industry stated the following: the manufacturers are taking a heating from multiple angles. First, just to get a product on formulary with the PBM, they are forced to give 60 to 65% rebate or risk being blocked. This is continued to the wholesalers that are requiring 10 to 15% rebate to participate in the wholesale distribution of the product. For example, if a manufacturer wants to make $800 for a product, they must set a price of over $3,000 to achieve this. Patients are forced to pay these higher prices, and if they can't afford to, they do without, and this has happened many times. Payers and businesses are also paying these higher prices or more. PBMs often pay the pharmacy one price, many times below the cost of the pharmacy's acquisition, and then charge the plan's payer a much higher price, otherwise known as spread pricing. This is just a hidden premium, especially to self-funded plans. Prices to pay to the pharmacies are all over the board. PBMs have been known to pay the pharmacy they own more than the other pharmacies in the network, costing patients and plan sponsors more money. PBMs say they pass along most, if not all, of the rebates. Too many reports, nearly all of them, dispute that claim. Demand of rebates is what is driving the price up and not down. And not all the prices they collect from the manufacturers are considered rebates either. PBMs say the pharmacies are making money. We're not even covering the cost to dispense, much less the product in many instances. It is estimated that at least 30% of the pharmacies will close by the end of the year if this unfair and probably unethical behavior of the PBMs is not brought under control. I also see on a daily basis multiple times the PBM attempting to charge the patient a copayment that far exceeds the cash price of a drug and then pocketing the difference. How is this saving the patient money? Senate Bill 843 and Travis Fitzwater's bill is designed to help with these issues. The bill will allow for transparency to show all the fees collected by the PBMs that inflates the cost of the drugs, fairness to everyone, and even fiduciary responsibility. We don't fault the PBMs for making money, but their excessive profits are at the expense of everyone, negatively impacting your constituents and the business in your community where you live. This bill is not just for the benefit of independent pharmacies. It is also for the benefit of our patients, your constituents, and businesses everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for being here. Next up in favor.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. My name is Arnie C., AC Dinoff, State Public Advocate. This is a great bill, and if you talk to Missourians and your constituents, this is probably one of the top 5, maybe the top 10 issues that are concerning Missouri families across our state. People across Missouri want to have the pharmacy of their choice. Cost, transparency, like the senator had stated, and regulated by the Department of Insurance. There's too many unfortunate bad apples and bad instances. I hear from seniors and people on fixed incomes all across Missouri about issues with prescriptions. How do they get their drug? They have to make choices, hard choices between rent and putting food on the table versus prescriptions. It's complex and confusing to Missourians as the law is written currently, and it does need to be getting under control, as was previously testified. What was I going to say? Let's see here. Just to give you an example of somebody, I shopped around for a senior's drugs. They're paying between $2,000 to $4,000. So if you shop Walgreens and CVS, the drugs were coming in about, Walgreens was about $3,000 and CVS was close to $4,000. Then if you go to Kroger, which would be in Troy, Missouri, the savings in their RX program, which they charge a fee of, I believe, $35, it brings it down to $200 annually for simple maintenance drugs such as blood pressure, can't think of the thing, cholesterol reducer, those basic maintenance drugs. And if you go to Costco, and there's, I believe, 6 or 7 Costcos in Missouri, it even brings those prescriptions down to $150 annually. So in my opinion, this is good sense legislation. It's unfortunate that pharmaceutical companies and third-party administrators, it unfortunately comes down to the old mighty dollar. And it's about profits over providing Missourians their well-being and about their health. And that's what really scares me. That's really saddens me. And I really applaud this bill. Would like to see this go to the governor's desk, go over to the House, and then go to the governor's desk. So I'm supportive of Senate Bill 843 and SB 1105.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions for this witness? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Anyone else in favor?
I'm Marty Hinterlong. I own the medicine shop in St. Clair, Missouri. I think I've done a very good job through 30-something years now of keeping healthcare costs down. I've distributed my information that you guys basically have, so I'm going to go off the cuff. Yesterday, I filled 7 prescriptions for a gentleman, Medicare that I've known for 30 years. One of them is Farxiga. It's got a brand new generic. It's been out for 3 months. The difference in savings is $230. Okay, it was not on my formulary. It was not a billable item through the formulary, so I couldn't save Medicare dollars, $230. Now, I go to fill the prescription, I actually lose on my net, bottom line cost, $20.07. Now it gets even challenginger. Because they're low income subsidy, their copays are $2.30 for a brand name. His copay was $0 for that item. The insurance companies are playing such a game that they actually put it $0, so the customer doesn't even know there's a generic. We can't win this equation. I filled 7 prescriptions and lost, and I've got a high volume store. I'm buying price is good. I can take care of my customers. I have for 30 years. I'm actually losing $18.17 on filling 7 prescriptions. That can't happen. I can't stay in business. Another one was Humira. I filled Humira 2.5 weeks ago. It cost $6,700. I was paid $6,400. I lost $348, and I actually ended up saying, okay, I sucked. I should have known this ahead of time. So I called the doctor, and I got a prescription for a generic next month. That was actually sold when the doctor comes back and says, well, we'll send it to the specialty pharmacy. The specialty pharmacy is owned by the insurance company. So I could have saved the generic instead of $6,700 would have costed me basically $800 to $1,000. So I could have saved Medicare people that much money, but they're playing a shell game. The insurance company owns the PBM, they own everything, and they pay us what they want to pay us. I lose my negative on HAM reimbursements. I'm losing $15,000 a month, net loss. Now, if I factor in my discounts, I say $12,000. I've got a good cash base. My cash base is $12,000. I mean, I make up $11,000 on my cash customers. So I'm filling cash customers and insurance companies. I'm filling basically 100-some prescriptions a day to basically try to get ahead, and that's a zero. Doesn't even pay my operating expenses. The insurance companies suck at this. They're purposely draining us. They're making a design so we have no choice but to sell to Walgreens, and I will not let that happen. I built a store for 30 years. I've taken care of my customers, and the insurance companies are saying they're paying us, that we're being shit on. As Mark Cuban said, we're being shit on.
Please watch your language.
Mark Cuban said it, not me.
This is not Mark Huma's hearing
I know, but he's
committee.
right. He's right. I could save Medicare dollars, and I can't even try to do it.
I appreciate your passion. I do. Any questions for this witness?
Any questions?
Seeing none, thank you for your
And yes,
testimony.
I'm hot about it. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
It's my life.
I understand. Anyone else in favor? Just one more quick show of hands. Anyone else in favor? Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Rob Monsess on behalf of the Missouri Hospital Association. Appreciate the passion of the previous speaker. The health insurance industrial complex is very real. The health insurance companies own the PBMs or vice versa. There are these big pharmacy chains. There are specialty pharmacies. Hospitals and their patients are dealing with the exact same types of problems. I would commend to you testimony from Jonathan Fryer, who is an attorney, specializes in litigating on PBM, testified in front of the Senate Finance Committee last year. He described a series of rebate aggregators that have been set up. It's a company set up by some of the PBMs to actually manage the rebates in a way that keeps that information away from their customers. I will also tell you that we experienced last year on similar legislation. Representative Wright had the PBM bill, and there was 340B legislation that we were advocating for. Their consultant, which was Express Scripts, hung an $18 million fiscal note on that bill. They then hung the same $18 million fiscal note on a separate bill. The reason I mention this is that, and they did that on behalf of Missouri Consolidated. So any state employees in the room that you happen to have Anthem through Missouri Consolidated, you're subject to this system. So Dale did not understand, nor did we, why this fiscal note shifted from the PBM and 340B bill and was present on the other one. So he asked Missouri Consolidated, what's the reason for this $18 million fiscal note? And they responded and said, well, these are the numbers we got from Express Scripts. So he said, well, can you have someone else analyze this information? So they went to the state's actuaries who helped manage Missouri Consolidated, and that $18 million fiscal note went down to $1.2 million. So I don't deny that you'll hear testimony, I'm sure, from people that are saying this is going to cost them a lot of money. That's what the PBMs are telling them, because there's no transparency. There's no way for these businesses to know. Because of the rebate aggregators, because of the lack of transparency rules, there's no way to know. That's why you sense the frustration on behalf of the pharmacies, the frustration on behalf of all providers in this scenario. So we think it's a great bill, appreciate the committee's time, and urge you to pass it.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else in favor? Seeing none, first up in opposition.
Good afternoon, committee. Mark Dalton, here on behalf of the Mid-America Carpenters Regional Council. Appreciate your guys' time. Just wanted to, clarify a few things on our end. The way that our fund works, we've got 23,000 members in Missouri, so we cover about 44,000 belly buttons on our plan. We have a health and welfare fund that administers all of our, from our healthcare insurance to our pharmacy coverage. We send that out to RFP every 3 to 5 years. We manage our fund internally, so it's a board of trustees, which I do sit on. It's labor trustees and management, so everybody has a buy-in from the workers to the companies that hire the workers. We operate our plan to offer the best benefits at the lowest cost to our members. As far as transparency, sitting on our board of trustees, we see everything that goes in and comes out. When you talk about rebates, we get 100% of the rebates back to our fund. When it comes back, we don't have shareholders. We don't have any. It's not a for-profit. All of the money that comes back in gets redistributed into the plan and allows us to offer more benefits and not cut benefits or increase costs. We do enjoy the privilege of directing members to certain pharmacies because we know that we get a better price at certain locations. Again, and I've testified here, Senate the last few years in the House, have still yet to hear any of the pharmaceutical manufacturers come in here and testify in favor of these bills and say that the PBMs and insurance companies are the ones driving the price up for them. We have not seen that. And again, I do appreciate small businesses. I try to utilize any small business I can when I can. But, when you talk about, the independent pharmacies wanting to stay afloat and get more money from the insurance companies to help keep them afloat, the insurance company on my end, for our members, it's our members. We are the ones with the health and welfare fund. Every hour that a member works, there's a certain dollar amount that goes in there. That is our fund. There's no insurance company. We're not a big bad insurance company. Every penny that goes in is utilized to offer benefits. We don't want to pay more out of our fund. We enjoy the freedoms that we have to set the plan up the way that fits our members best and offer the best coverage at the lowest cost. And we just don't want to be handcuffed in that and have some of those choices taken away in the way that we administer our fund. So that's why I'm here to oppose the bills today, and we'll take any questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Sorry, you don't get to question him. Sorry. Next up in opposition.
Good afternoon to the committee. My name is Zach Dunn. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the Missouri and Kansas Laborers District Council. We represent more than 12,000 construction and craft laborers here in Missouri. Our members do a lot of demolition, a lot of concrete work. So we've recently done a lot of the renovations here at the Capitol. We'll be expanding I-70 and a lot of the buildings, government buildings, infrastructure around the state, our members have the luxury of doing. I'm here to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 843 as well as 1105 today. It is our understanding that these bills are going to increase cost for our health and welfare plans, much like Mark kind of shared with his union and how the structure of their health and welfare funds are structured. We are very similar. We maintain two separate health and welfare funds here in Missouri, one in St. Louis and one that covers greater Kansas City and outstate Missouri. Both of these funds are administered by a different board of trustees who have fiduciary duty to our members, as well as they contract with different prescription benefit managers. In either case, regardless of the fund, we have had our internal fund managers who are hired exclusively by our fund. They've done the cost impacts, and they've come to the conclusion that it would increase cost to our funds by about 1% to 2% each year, which translates anywhere from about $500,000 to $1 million, given given the year and the volume of prescription drugs that we distribute. One of the things that I want to highlight is that because we are self-insured and self-funded, anytime that we have increased costs to our funds, we have a few options at our disposal. First and foremost, we negotiate a contract with our contractors every 4 to 5 years, and we can go back and we can ask our contractors for more money. But as you can imagine, as some of you are business owners, that's something that's not something that we want to have to do, is to go back to our contractors and ask for a higher increase in the amount of money that we're taking off of each check to put towards our health and welfare. The second option is that we can change what we cover, and we can cover less prescriptions or less medical treatment for our members. And as a union, that's the last thing that we want to do. And so ultimately, we want to try and avoid increasing costs to our plans, because we have to make tough decisions between what do we cover, don't cover, or do we go back to our contractors and ask for more money. We want to ensure that we're providing the best care to our members. At the end of the day, that is why we exist. That's why we're here. And unfortunately, these bills do just that. They increase those costs and are going to have adverse impacts to our membership.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, next up in opposition.
Good afternoon. Hi, my name is Dave Heenan with the St. Louis Area Business Health Coalition, and for over 20 years I've overseen a pharmacy management initiative with 300,000 lives, and I negotiate PBM contracts on behalf of those employers. The St. Louis Area Business Health Coalition and its 68 employer members thank the opportunity to express the opposition to SB843 and SB1105. The BHC is a nonprofit organization that has represented the region's employers on issues in healthcare for over 40 years. We are concerned with the impact of these bills could have on the Missouri employers, workers, and their families. These bills take away employers' ability to create custom networks. Use of narrow networks allow employers to ensure the access and affordability needs of their employees are met. With over 60,000 pharmacies across the United States, employers do not need all of them within their network. Research of independent healthcare economists agree preferred pharmacy networks were found to lower drug spending in private insurance plans by approximately 2% annually, representing a savings of $1.34 billion, according to Yale University. These bills guarantee acquisition costs to pharmacies. Negotiation is used across America's economic marketplace to achieve competitive pricing. Guaranteeing pharmacies their acquisition cost for these drugs eliminates their responsibility to negotiate to acquire these drugs at the lowest possible costs, reducing competition and creating higher costs for self-insured employers, their workers, and families. These bills also ban the utilization of spread pricing. Spread pricing is one of two pricing models that is offered to plan sponsors by major PBMs. Self-insured employers frequently choose spread pricing as it ensures consistent pricing for medications across geographies, allows easier price comparison across PBMs in a competitive bidding process, and fosters an easier ability to audit the price of those prescriptions against the contract. Employers should be given the opportunity to choose which pricing model is best for their enrollees without the fear of market forces being limited. It is for those reasons that the St. Louis Area Business Health Coalition opposes passage of SB 843 and SB 1105. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, next up in opposition.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair Crawford and members of the committee. My name is Sam Hollemeyer with PCMA, which is the National Trade Association for America's Pharmacy Benefit Managers. PCMA members serve 275 millions of Americans with prescription drug insurance. I will submit written testimony after this, so I will keep my comments brief, but I am here in opposition to Senate Bill 843 and Senate Bill 1105. I do want to start off by saying that no one is required to use a PBM, but plans choose to do so because PBMs save on drug costs through various PBM tools. The core mission of a PBM is to reduce prescription drug costs so that plans may provide benefits for their employees. with affordable access to needed prescription drugs. And then PBMs act as third-party administrators that simply execute the plan that employers choose in these private contracts. We're concerned that these bills will strip PBMs of these tools to reduce costs. A lot has been shared on the specifics of the bill, so I won't reiterate that, but the language in the bill would also increase costs with no added patient value and appears to add to the profits of special interests in the supply chain. But I do want to call out that one of the more troubling provisions in the bill is the deletion of language that would suggest the bill would apply to Medicare Part D and ERISA self-funded plans. We feel that these plans are preempted by federal law, so I appreciate your consideration today on Senate Bill 843 and 1105, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions for this witness? Seeing none. Next up in opposition.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Michael Henderson for the Missouri Insurance Coalition. I think it's important that you've heard from both employers and unions, two sides that don't usually agree on a lot of things, about the importance of their ability to design plans that work for their members and save money for their members. They do that, as has been testified to, by utilizing PBMs to help them build out networks, build out preferred pharmacies, help with cost sharing, maybe set up connections to specialty pharmacies dealing with specialty drugs that can buy those sorts of drugs at volume and save money. Nothing about this bill does anything to save costs to the employers or union members using that. Mr. Holloway, I believe, who was the witness just prior to me, mentioned the deletion of the exception language for ERISA plans and Medicare Part D. Interestingly, there was a 10th Circuit case in August of last year which held that many of the provisions very similar to the ones in this bill, including any willing provider provisions, including provisions that would prohibit the use of cost-sharing incentives or preferred networks, actually would run afoul of ERISA law. Any willing provider provisions run afoul of Medicare Part D laws, and so I think a lot of these provisions, at least held by the 10th Circuit, obviously we're in the 8th, but I think it's telling how similar these provisions are, would be preempted. In terms of community pharmacies, Mr. Dalton, prior to me, mentioned, hey, we all love small businesses, like supporting them. My family uses Robert's Drug Store here in town. Before coming over here about an hour ago, I stopped over next door to my office at Thompson Drug Store to purchase some items. And so we're in full support of local pharmacies, no doubt. I think it's telling, and if you'll just bear with me here for a second, if you look at the statistics published each year by the National Community Pharmacists Association, so that's the national group for community pharmacies. If you look at their digests, I think certainly since a post-COVID world, there's no denying there was some contraction in the market during the COVID years. I think we saw that across the board, not just in the health space, but everywhere. But in the post-COVID years, at least as reported by the National Community Pharmacists Group, in the year 2020, there were 323 independent pharmacies in Missouri. 2021, there was 328 independent pharmacies. And in 2022, which is the most recent data, there were 324 independent pharmacies. So that's holding steady. It's not this massive contraction that has been testified to. I think in addition to PBMs, there were a lot of other factors identified by the National Community Pharmacists Association leading to difficulties for their pharmacies. That would include inflation, supply shortages, and staffing shortages. I mean, we've seen that across the board, not just, again, in the health space, but everywhere. I think it's telling, again, as reported by the NCPA, their digest in 2021 constituted a $78.5 billion marketplace. Nationwide gross profit margin for community pharmacies in 2021 was 23.3%, equaling the best GPM in the prior 10 years. And average annual sales per pharmacy in 2021 were $4,031,000, which was up $571,000 from 2020. and represented the highest annual sales per pharmacy since 2005. So certainly, I don't doubt that, like many businesses, there's many factors that make it difficult on a day-to-day basis, but to get up here and point the finger solely at PBMs, I think is not accurate. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none,
Thank
thank
you.
you for your testimony. Next up in opposition, and how many more in opposition? A show of hands. Okay, good, because I need about 5 to 10 minutes for an exec session, so proceed.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Heidi Geis-Bueller Sutherland here on behalf of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. As the Insurance Coalition pointed out, it's not often that you see labor and the chamber on both sides of an issue, but here we are today. And for the reasons already mentioned, the consequences of this bill include an increased cost to the plans that employers are able to provide their employees and a decrease in flexibility of those plans. We are also against the bill.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Madam Chair, Shannon Cooper today, representing America's Health Insurance Plans, and my goal with my testimony is to leave you enough time to do your exec session, but hopefully get one of you to ask me a question.
Is that it?
I think in the years that I have opposed this legislation and the countless hours we've spent on it, I find it interesting that there is a couple things missing from these hearings. And the most obvious, there has never, to my knowledge, been an employer walk into this building and testify in favor of one of these bills saying the PBMs caused my health insurance rates to go up. Their actions cost me more, and I found that out when I went to my local pharmacist, and they guaranteed me a program that they could beat the prices for my employees that the PBMs offered me. And the reality is today, and it's been said several times, it is rare when you have a diverse group of employers that have testified today to the fact that PBMs work. And I realize that a lot of people behind me don't like that fact, but the reality is we have a financial responsibility to get the best deal possible for quality health care and quality pharmaceuticals. And the PBMs fill that niche. They do a good job. And I would challenge anybody out here who thinks they can do a better job to approach any of those of us opposing this bill with a better plan to where they can guarantee the savings. With that, Madam Chair, I will stop, and hopefully one of you will ask me a question.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none,
I
thank you
have
for your
failed
testimony.
today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anyone else in opposition? I did not see any hands. Anyone here for informational purposes only?
Yes, can I?
You've already had your chance, so sorry. This will conclude the senators. If you want to come back up real quick, does anyone have any questions for the bill sponsors, which I failed to do? All right, seeing none, any final comments from the senators?
Can I mention really quick? Thank you, Madam Chair, for the hearing. When I moved to Missouri about 20 years ago, there were close to 600 independent pharmacies in the state.
Thank you for that testimony. This will conclude the hearing on Senate Bills 843 and 1105. I make a motion that we go into executive session. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I move that we take up Senate Bill 826. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. This is Senator Koenig's bill that we heard 2 weeks ago relating to central bank digital currency. We do not have a sub, so I move that we vote Senate Bill 826 out of committee. Do pass. Do I have a second? Have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Crawford.
Aye.
Trent. Brown. Hoskins. Huff. Mosley. Roberts.
No. 4-1. By your vote of 4-1, you have do passed Senate Bill 826. I I now move that we take up Senate Bill 1028. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. This is Senator Moon's bill that we heard 2 weeks ago that created a joint committee on legal tender dealing with the gold and silver. And we do have a committee sub. We made some changes with the substitute. Actually, that was at my request. We're going to change this to a task force rather than a joint committee. Also, we changed the title, of course, and we also are going to make the state treasurer a member of that task force. I felt like that was important since he or she will be the one dealing with that. And also, Senator Moon's bill did not have an expiration date, and I felt like we didn't need to go into perpetuity, so that would set an expiration date of December 31st, 2025. We've had a lot of gold and silver bills, and I think it is a good idea that maybe we study it before we actually try to pass something. So, I would move that we adopt the substitute. Do I have a second? I have a second. Is there any discussion on the substitute? All those in favor of adopting the substitute say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I now move that we vote Senate Bill 1028 with Senate Committee substitute out of committee do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Is there any final discussion? Hearing none, Barb, please call the roll.
Senators Crawford.
Aye.
Trent. Brown. Hoskins. Huff. Mosley. Roberts.
By your vote of 4-1, you have passed Senate Bill 10, Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bill 1028. And the last bill is House Bill 1803. I move that we take up House Bill 1803. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. This is Representative Thompson's bill that we heard a couple of weeks ago relating to, it's the MoBucks bill, and I move that we vote House Bill 1803 out of committee do pass. Do I have a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Barb, please call the roll.
Senators Crawford.
Aye.
Trent. Brown. Hoskins. Huff. Mosley. Roberts.
By your vote of 4-1, you have passed House Bill 1803. I make a motion we go out of executive session. Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. I make a motion that we adjourn. Do I have a second? Have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.